Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement and occasional losses of UofL women's athletics. Yes, it is season. Things are going on. Our big three that we cover in the fall are all in full action. Of course, that being, of course, field hockey and not to mention volleyball, and as well as women's soccer. We may even get into some golf results today. We'll see how it kind of taps out. We want to be off the air right at noon because we got a couple guys headed down to the KFCM Center to get in there early for their basketball seats for the season. No, that's not right, Paul. They're going down to watch volleyball today, as Northern Iowa is coming into town, from what I understand. Pretty used to be a pretty good volleyball team. I don't know if they still are or not, but Jeff McAdams, who will be down there today, is with us, and he can tell us all about him. Jeff, what's up with this team?
Yeah, there. You and I is kind of like I don't know, maybe like a Dayton or a Western Kentucky. Like they're never gonna be in top level competition across the country, but don't take them for granted because they'll reach up and smack you. We talked a little bit more about that in Louisville's record against them and other sort of storylines from the match today here in a little bit.
Absolutely so. Is yeah, the Northern Iowa nickname,
The
and
Panthers.
they are the Panthers. Okay,
Yes.
all right. I like that one. I wouldn't have
Yep.
figured it from it out in the middle of Iowa, but then
Yeah.
you never know. Also in the house today, Jared Anderson. Jared will also be down there snapping photos and posing for selfies with everybody he can enamel. Uh, Jared, you've been a busy man lately here, bud.
Yeah. So what a four sport weekend for me. A couple field hockey matches, a couple volleyball matches, and it's just when fall sports are all in full swing. One of the busiest times of the year for me, but at least we've got beautiful weather to get out and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful out there today. Getting up to a high of 90 today, from what I understand here locally, gang. So if you can get out and enjoy it, go out and do it. Absolutely, have some fun with it.
Had a couple of nice days of rain that we definitely needed, but now it's back to hot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was really, really overdue too. I mean,
Yeah.
the-
It was the first day that we've had over an inch of rain in Louisville since I think I saw July 13th.
wow,
Yeah.
that long.
So, yeah, been a couple of months since we've had significant rainfall. So,
Yeah, I mean, it was so dry out there. Honestly, we've got this big tulip poplar out in the front yard of my house, and it's already shedding leaves. And I've never seen it shed leaves this early in the year, ever.
yeah, it's so dry it accelerates that. Yeah.
I mean, and the tree is so dry. And it is that it was begging dogs to stop by and pee on it. That's how dry it was. You know, sorry, that's an old joke, but hey, we got fun to talk about today, though. As for myself, and just another week in the life, monitoring the knuckleheads here and doing other stuff as well, and just basically thriving and surviving and trying to stay alive. Off we go for another week of fun excitement. Let's go ahead and I guess maybe start it out today with results instead of what's upcoming as far as U of L women's athletics go. We did have field hockey yesterday, as Jared can attest to. Cards brought in the cream of the crop, number one, top ranked Northwestern, the Wildcats. Came to 10, coming in with a 2-0 record, and certainly kind of, no, I thought was a bit, they're four, were they 4-0?
I believe Northwestern was 4-0.
Okay, a 4-0 record. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But coming in undefeated, number one in the land, going up against at that time, the ninth ranked Cards. And Jared, they got on the board early and they never looked back on us, did they?
Northwestern's just a great team. I kind of thought they were the clear number one before seeing them in person. After watching them last night, they're going to cruise right through pretty much the regular season. They may hit a couple speed bumps due to the Big Ten being just as challenging as the ACC, but Northwestern definitely looks like the clear number one team this year. The team to beat. They're just clean and sound at everything they're doing. Passes were great. They dominated the midfield. didn't really give up a lot of opportunities on their back line of defense, and the couple times that UofL was able to draw a penalty corner, they couldn't capitalize. And I just think Northwestern's a really good team. I don't think it's really a diss at Louisville being bad or anything. I just thought one team looked far better than the other. And UofL's a young team, and we can talk about that here in a minute too.
First time in the season that the Cards have been shut out. A 2-0 loss to them, a top 10 matchup at a Traeger. It was ideal weather for field hockey, but unfortunately, Justine Sowry probably should have been a little more upset than she was, but her first comments right off the bat were, "What a game!" So obviously she was not that upset about playing 2-0 against a very strong Northwestern squad. Uh,
Yeah, I think if you're ninth ranked and you're playing against a number one ranked team and you lose 2-0 and you're competing well, and the stats were competitive, shots on goal were, it was a little bit in Northwestern favor, but we had three, they had seven, right? So I mean, it was a little bit lopsided, but that's a good game. That's a good play, right? I suspect Sauer's looking for some wins at this point because they are below 500, which is, but you got to expect that they're going to pick some up in conference to help bolster that a little bit. But yeah, when you're going up against the number one team in the country, and from obviously Jared Dye testing a clear number one, okay, well, yeah, we took the loss, but we played well and learned from it and go on.
the Wildcats now 5-0, and they netted their first goal on the Cards with about 4 minutes left in the first quarter when they had a nice little sequence there where they set up one of the girls inside and she was able to slap one of them home pretty quickly to make it 1-0. It looked like it might go to halftime at 1-0, but no. Northwestern said, "Guess what? We're not done yet." And they tacked on a goal in the second quarter as well. Uh, Excuse me, not in the second quarter.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Third quarter,
It
second
was the
half.
third quarter.
It was the third
Oops,
quarter.
I said
I
that.
misread what I was reading there. It was
You
1-0
may
at
have
halftime. That's right.
you
They
may
did
have
not.
read it wrong in my article then, because I got it wrong in the article.
Oh, okay.
We'll go fix that actually.
Yeah, there will be a correction done on that then.
Yeah,
But yeah, I thought they scored in the second quarter too. Okay, maybe I was half drowsy when I was watching it anyway, so I did not get out to the event. But the Cards are playing very, very consistent field hockey. I think where they're not getting blown out of the water by anybody, and they're not getting huge wins either. I mean, they're hanging in there. They're beating the teams that we kind of suspected they would beat. I mean, when you take a look at who they've had to go up against so far, and the opponents that they've had, guys, you know, 2-3 is a well, it's not the best record in the world. Okay, we can say that, but then you take a look at that. They lost to Maryland, a very, very good team. I think number 4 in the nation last I saw.
I think
So
that's what I saw.
certainly no disgrace there. They were able to beat American University after that, and then I don't know, a loss to Princeton, and mostly sadly here at Traeger, a 1-0 loss there. Traeger was 15. Princeton was 15 in the nation at the time, so no goals there. But they came back a couple of days later and beat Penn 3-1, and that took them into the Northwestern game where they went down 0-2. Jared, I know it's not the start that Sowry wants, but she's definitely got some building blocks there, and I think that kind of begins with Izzy Bianco and also the Plum sisters.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of talent. You've got Amy back for fifth year. Mia Duchars is a fifth year. Izzy Bianco surprisingly is only junior, so we at least have her for another year after the season's over. Both the Plum sisters typically produce offensively. There wasn't much offense to see yesterday. I still am not too worried about the offensive side of things. There's plenty of scores out there you can include. Riley Woolerton in that mix, Lauren Masters in that mix. A lot of different players who can score when need be. It's just more midfield, some newer faces. That back line of defense, it's fairly young. I think at one point yesterday, the whole back line consisted of one or two freshmen, a couple sophomores, and a junior. And that's a junior who hasn't seen a ton of experience in playing time throughout her career. So just a lot of players that have to adapt to that position. You have to think about how many graduated in the past couple years under salary, and especially the ones who took their COVID season already for that eligibility. So there's certainly some growing pains going on, but there's a lot of young talent and a lot of talent that's going to be returning next year. And the season's still young. You got the whole season still to develop these players, and I think we're going to see some big time wins when we get later on in the year.
Absolutely so. And it maybe takes a little lighter turn of competition for the Cards than the way they started out. Cornell coming up on Sunday, and certainly the Ivy League schools are always pretty decent at field hockey. Don't get me wrong here, but Cornell maybe not the powerhouse that a Northwestern or a Maryland was. And then the Cards will play that one out at Traeger, and then next Friday bring it in Stanford. That's right, the Tree. They're coming to town. The Cardinal versus the Cardinals, uh, and that one should be a fun contest. But I don't like the 4 o'clock start. I got to be honest with you. It's
Well,
Friday.
it does help. Uh, it normally they'll play those Friday ones that are around 1 or 2 o'clock, which is tough for your working folks and people who are trying to park on campus. So at least pushing it back a little bit allows people to maybe get off work, and then it opens up potentially some parking on or around campus.
Yeah, that's maybe a plus to it there. But I mean, what's wrong with a 6 p.m. or a 7 p.m. start of your game? Come on, seriously. You know, you want attendance out there, and uh, okay, I could go off on that for a bit, but I won't. Uh, so next two in a row at home for the Cards. Hopefully a couple wins here. We'll have to wait and see. And then after that, one last non-conference game for the time being, as they will face Ball State, and then travel to Muncie to play the Cardinals up there. So how about that? We've got kind of a rarity here. We will play the Cardinal and then the Cardinals back to back.
Yeah,
Everybody was as convinced as I was that that was great, right?
yeah. It's just sorry. It tends
Excuse
to
me.
it tends to trigger a rant in me because so many people, and I'm thinking particularly of a volleyball announcer here, but also more than that, uh, will default to calling teams the Cardinal. And like, there's only one team in the country that goes by the Cardinal, and how many of us go by the Cardinals with an S? Why default to that one? I don't know. I think it reveals a little bit of bias in some of these commentators, but frustrating. One of
And
my rants.
yeah, maybe part of it just could be too, guys. That we talk about Cardinal spirit that we have here at Louisville. We talk about our Cardinal marching band.
Yeah, and as an adjectival form, great, but that's not what these people are using. They're using the Cardinal to talk to, like, to refer to the team name, and it's like, really, come on,
Yeah.
you know. And like, these are commentators that I have great respect for the most part. That I think are really good commentators, but this one thing about them is just like, come on, this, why are you doing this? Why? Yeah, I don't know.
And perhaps
Sorry.
I should have renamed the website Cardinals Couple,
Yeah,
but no, people get the idea.
yeah, but
Just for the
again, it's an
occasional one.
adjectival form that's appropriate for that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We still have people coming to look for birds,
yep.
and occasionally I'll get the unsolicited email about wanting to hook up with the couple for a little S&M and B&D. And I don't know what that means, but I'm going to find out someday, I'm sure. So far, I've said no to everybody. Uh, all right, so field hockey. Let's hope that they can bring it back around. I think they got a good chance of winning these next two here, and then getting themselves kind of upright and rolling on good foot again, and then going up to Ball State, which I think You got to think that'd be a W up there, and then boom, all of a sudden you know you're in conference play. You're not even out of September, and you bring in Boston College to trigger.
Yeah, I think Louisville goes 3-0 in the next three matches. The one sport that I think Stanford is the most beatable in is field hockey. When you look across all their 75 sports or whatever they recognize, field hockey has just not been a sport that they've invested in as much over recent years. A team that's finished 500 for or under 500 for quite some time. It's been a few years now, but there was one season where they had some goalkeeper issues, and they were running for a handful of matches without a keeper. Bizarre play to do that, but hey, whatever floats your boat. No, Cornell, I think, as you mentioned, of the Ivy League teams, I think they're one of the more beatable Ivy League teams. Harvard and Princeton typically run the show up there for field hockey purposes, and Ball State should be one of your kind of run of the mill, just middle level teams that UofL should be able to overpower and outmatch.
Yeah, and I think we should note that U of L in field hockey, again, because of numbers in ACC, the number of teams that play ACC, although we have two more this year than we have in the past, and thus we have fewer of these non-conference games mixed in the midst of conference play, which is unusual for sports. But it's always been there's not that many conference games for ACC teams because has typically only been 7. Now there's 9. So they would typically play a conference team and a non-conference team every week. That's shifted more towards conference this year. So, but there are still a few in there. Ball State, Ohio State, UC Davis. We're playing all of those after we start playing conference games. So
And we hope that Sauer and her squad can go out there and swing the sticks and get some things done. So we'll be watching them with interest as the weeks go on. Uh, Another sport that uses the ball, but this one they kick around a lot, and this is women's soccer. Card's been uh, actually surprising me a little bit in the fact that they started off the way they did so good. And I hate to be negative about that, but it did surprise me that they started out that well. Unfortunately, kind of a dropped their first game of the year to Dayton, a 1-0 game, and that was at Lynn Stadium, which makes it kind of even sadder that they lost it there. But they actually scored very, very early on the Cardinals. Dayton did. I think, Jerry, what was that, like in the 4th or 5th minute?
Yeah,
And
it took no time at all. Got that quick goal, just transition downfield, caught the defense off guard a little bit, and after that, I thought the defense held tough and true. Didn't really give up a lot of chances for Dayton to even have a good look. It was just that one lapse, and I want to blame it more on a mental lapse than anything.
and Dayton has kind of always been the team that's always given us trouble in women's soccer too. So not to mention they're good at volleyball at times as well, but women's soccer they've always given us a pretty tough time of it. I think we did beat them up there last year, but it was a fairly close game from what I remember. And then they come down here and return the favor to us. So, but yeah, what do you think, Jeff? I mean, they're not playing that bad of women's soccer right now. Louisville isn't. They what are they 5-1-2? That's not
yeah, they're
bad.
yeah they're 5-1-2, and getting ready to play Pitt today, and they're 6-1-1, very similar sort of record against probably similar level teams that they've been playing against up there. So this could be a good game. I do. Yeah, I'm happy with where soccer. Fairly happy with where soccer is right now, but we do have to call out the elephant in the room. We're not particularly playing powerhouse teams here, right? Not for the most part. Like you talked about, Dayton can be good, but and some of these other teams, can occasionally put together a good squad and reach up and be giant killers occasionally. But it's for the most part, they're not exactly playing powerhouse teams here. So let's hope they're using this time to continue to develop and improve, and then because as we start into this conference play, this match against Pitt's going to be, I'm looking at it going, yeah, it could probably be fairly competitive, but some of these other games are going to be brutal if we don't kind of step up the level of play, I think.
Jared, ACC women's soccer is getting nationwide kudos and praise for being this such a strong conference as it is. And when we think of the Panthers and Pitt, we don't normally think of them as being a strong conference team in the ACC. Hey, they're 6-1-1. Okay, so even when you think you might be getting one of the less formidable opponents in the league, you go in there and there they are with only one loss and one tie. But it'll be the third game away for the Cards this season. They're 1-0-1 on the road. Just some thoughts about playing Pitt, Jared?
Pitt's flying under the radar right now. As you mentioned, 6-1-1 is a good record. May not be the strongest schedule for them either. They played a couple, what I want to say is like Bellarmine level teams, so not great opponents, but they did sneak in a draw against Georgia in there, which is pretty solid. They've played a couple other fairly decent teams, but they've only scored less than 2 goals twice this season. They've really put it on. These last 2 matches against Dartmouth and Mercyhurst, they've outscored opponents 13-1. They're averaging roughly 3.5 goals a match. So they're certainly going to be putting some pressure on our defense, and we've got to be able to hold true. I think we've got to find ways to turn defensive stops into quick transitions for offensive opportunities.
And certainly for the Cards, when you think of them winning and playing games, you've got to think of the great combination of Carson Cherry and Brooke Dardano. As Carson leading the team, she started all 8 games this year for the Cards, and she has a total of 5 goals so far for Louisville. Most of those coming off set pieces, from what I remember and what I think I saw. And then Brooke Dardano, she is second in the ACC in assists with 6 this season, and has that 1-2 combination there has been very, very volatile for the Cards, I think, guys. And of course, 2 players do not a team make, as we can tell you. Mackenzie Geigley and Amber Jackson have also been very, very active for the Cards this year as well. This team's doing better than I thought they would, Jeff. They really are. I figured we might be at 500 right now. Not to be.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I was worried about it. I had to be honest, I had a fairly pessimistic outlook on this team at the beginning, and they have done. I have cautions, I have concerns still, but certainly they're doing better than I expected, and I'm hopeful that they'll, like I said, taking this time against some of these easier teams to play and developing and improving and take the time to where they don't have to be so worried about super competitive games and do some development work.
Even the 8 games that the Cards have played this year, they have 19 goals. So a little better than 2 a game. Yeah, not bad. And higher than the totals from last year, obviously. And I think in something I noticed in each one of the wins that Louisville has had this year, they've had multiple goals. So that's good. No 1-0 thrillers. They've been able to put at least 2 or more up there to win the games. Jared, you've seen a lot of them as well. This is a team that really, really kind of just bonds around each other, and then they defend each other to the dying second. I mean, they are such a strong, tight unit out there.
They play much more as a team than they did last year. That's something I've noticed has been a big difference. It's certainly paid off on the pitch. They communicate and pass better. They're willing to pass up maybe a not great look to find a teammate who has a better look. Sometimes I think we maybe need to not take 2 extra steps when receiving the ball to take the shot. If you have the ball at your feet, you got the open look, take the shot, because the more steps and dribbles you take, the more time you're giving the defense to recover and play catch up. So that I think that's one thing where they could really focus on offense to improve. I think it'd make a big difference, get a couple extra goals, but they seem to be a lot more on target this season. I mean, even if it gets saved or deflected, that doesn't bother me as long as your shot is on target versus you take a shot and it goes flying way off in the distance and onto the train tracks at Lynn or something.
Yeah, it would be kind of a little bit
Out
out
on
of
the
play
Floyd.
there. They had it at it over on a lacrosse field. Oh, I don't know. She got under it. Uh, but
That's a
these
heck of a
cards,
kick if that
yeah,
happens.
yeah, well, you get the good bounce off Floyd Street.
Oh, okay. You're not on a fly. Okay, that's better.
Yeah, you still got that fence there to get
I
over.
saw. I think it's pretty good to clear that fence. Yeah, for sure.
The cards, and we had talked about schedule strength with field hockey a little bit. Just kind of taking a look at what Louisville's done here in non-conference. A nice win over Bellarmine. No need to, throw dirt on the grave of that program, but they certainly played them 7-0. But there's a Louisville ex-player head coach of that squad now, and we had a chance to talk with her a little bit, Jared. I think she's going to do some good things at Bellarmine.
Yeah, absolutely. She's coming into a pretty rough situation for their women's soccer program. Wouldn't say they're probably towards just one of their lowest lows that they've had in a long time. She did turn around and get a win against Asbury University right after playing Bellarmine or after playing Louisville, and there was an 8-0 victory. But since then, it's been some tough battles. They did have a 1-1 draw and a 1-0 loss against Northern Kentucky the other day, but starting to show some improvements. She's got a lot of work to do there, but I believe Callie McKinney can do it.
Yeah. Oh, I just leaned forward. My headset fell off. Sorry about that, gang. Yeah, and if anybody can get the job done, certainly it'll be Callie because she is such a hard, you mentioned, worker during her playing days at Louisville, and uh, got old Karen Ferguson days thanks to her old over too. So
That's a midfielder who'd take a punch or two to the jaw and get right back up, spit the blood out, and say, "Let's keep playing."
yeah, I got a couple loose teeth. Don't worry about it. I'll see the orthodontist tomorrow. Play on. Uh, but the cards, when we were talking strength of schedule a little bit, Bellarmine obviously not the toughest up there. 3-1 win over UAB. Once again, not a powerhouse soccer program, but certainly I think a challenging mid-major team. And then the tie against New Hampshire, which I think kind of surprised all of us, including I think New Hampshire. Judging by the way they charged off the sidelines onto the field after gaining that tie against us, you would have thought they had just won the American East title or something. Man, they were very fired up to get a tie against an ACC squad. So that was fine. Western or Northern Kentucky, the Cards that did actually go up to Highland Heights, and I've never been up to their soccer field up there. I've been up there to see lacrosse played up there. I've been up there to see basketball played up there, but I've never been up there to actually see this. But they did get a 2-1 win there. And then Cincinnati came. We went to Cincinnati to play them up there in a 1-1 tie. And then, of course, the win over Evansville, the win over UT Martin, both of those 2-0 scores. And then most recently, of course, the 1-0 loss to Dayton at Mark and Cindy Lynn Stadium. Guys, it isn't the strongest schedule in the world, but I think we've done okay against it. It's just the strength of the schedule's not that great.
That's all right though, because you get the ACC play and the strength of schedule shoots through the roof. So if you need to have a slightly weaker non-conference schedule just to get some guaranteed wins, I'd rather do that because by the time that the season's over, the strength of schedule is going to be a top 20 strength of schedule, no doubt about that. It's just you got to be able to also pull out some wins in there to be eligible for the NCAA tournament. You got to be over 500. We'll see how they go in ACC play. I think the conference tournament's still only the top 6 teams, which is quite ridiculous in my opinion. However, I think the goal should be the NCAA tournament, not the ACC tournament.
Statistics, which I found I really, really was kind of had to look at twice to make sure it was correct, but it is. Uh, in the one tie and in the one loss and 2 ties that Louisville has had this year, and in all 8 games, they have allowed a mere 5 goals. In 8 games, they have allowed just 5 goals. That speaks volumes to me about what kind of job we're getting out of our defense.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty impressive stat for sure.
An overwhelming shot advantage, 125-35, Well, if they can kind of keep up those numbers in ACC play, obviously I doubt they will, but wow, that's just domination right there, pure domination. And only 13 shots on goal the entire season on Louisville too. So, but it's a strong crew back there in the Jordan, and then with the graduation, you kind of had to wonder. We're not getting much back there, but the kids are doing a great job that are in there now.
Yeah, there's a lot of leadership on that back line, in my opinion, especially as you've mentioned already and hinted at. Carson Cherry has done just a phenomenal job in what she's been able to do. Uh, Hadley Snyder, a Louisville girl herself, she's playing the other center back position. I think she's a junior, if I remember off the top of my head. Uh, we've seen Leslie Sexton kind of pull back in one of those wing positions as needed. You mentioned Brooke Dardano kind of plays a bit of a midfield role, will pull back on defense as needed. Just a lot of leadership that's kind of your mid-class, not fully upper-class position yet. So just looking good already there. I think we still need to figure out this goalkeeper situation. Uh, we've kind of been back and forth between both keepers, and I still think Erin Floyd looks to have the edge if she's healthy. She's a little more experienced, a little bit quicker reaction time.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise to me too to see Kaylee Kimball get the minutes that she did in the last game out. I said, "What is, basically, what has Aaron done wrong?" She's been doing a great job back there.
I think that might have been maybe a slight injury or something bugging Floyd with it. Her whole upper leg was taped up for that Dayton match. That's the one where Kaylee Kimball got the start. So I'm thinking maybe Floyd just wasn't 100%. So Ferguson Days chose to go with the healthy Kimball for that one.
So certainly a very good player in her own right, though. So not a problem with that. Local talent on the squad. Obviously, you can start with Betsy Huckabee, one that comes from right a little north of us here up in Crestwood, up in South Oldham High School. She's been a very, very valuable midfielder for the Cards this year, and I think one that has definitely earned the playing time that she gets out there. She's always working hard out there, isn't she, guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For just a sophomore, she's shown some really good minutes, great effort out there, and just a big step up from last year as a freshman. I think she made some big improvements in the offseason and looks a lot more comfortable out there. Your other South Oldham graduate is Brooke Dardano, who we kind of hinted at a little bit, moved to that senior leadership role this year. Great. If you do want to stay on topic for some of your local girls, we do have 3 Louisville girls right now. Uh, See if you can
Maya
name them off.
Maxwell.
There's one.
And after Maya Maxwell, I'm going to have to go resort and cheat. I can't think of the others.
Jeff, you want to chime in?
Oh, I haven't a foggiest.
You've got Hadley Snyder, who's Assumption, and you've got a freshman also from Assumption this year. If you want to take a stab at it,
I don't have a clue. I don't know the roster that well.
A.G. Gibson, who has already moved into a starting midfield role
and has gotten a lot of playing time, I might read. Yeah, right, Jared.
Absolutely, seeing a freshman get a ton of playing time like that is just super exciting to see. Not to stray away from your local talent, but another freshman seeing a heavy amount of playing time so far is Fina Davey, who comes in from Delaware, Ohio. So the city of Delaware in the state of Ohio. A lot of playing time already for her. Lauren Contini, another freshman, is coming in from New Philadelphia, Ohio. So not Pennsylvania, but the state of Ohio once again. A forward position. I think we're going to start seeing some goals coming out of her here soon.
Both Gibson and Hadley Snyder are from Assumption. Here locally, as Sarah mentioned, normally you think of Assumption more as a volleyball kind of powerhouse in past years, maybe. But certainly, if you can put 2 on a major college roster out of your high school, you're doing pretty good there, aren't you? So hopefully that program will continue to grow. Uh, I think we covered about all the ones that are local, Jared. I think that's
There's a couple if you want to kind of go across the river, Noblesville, Indiana, which isn't too far. Emerson Jennings, who's a junior forward. if you want to extend it further to Cincinnati, Ohio, Lizzie Sexton's back. But once you're getting an hour and a half away at that point, so that's
Yeah, I can't.
beyond your greater Louisville area.
Anything out of 20 minutes and it's foreign to me. So we'll move it in. And so we'll certainly wish them the best of luck and hope that they can keep the good things going. Let's go ahead and jump in, I think, to a little bit of volleyball. Volleyball, of course, certainly has been playing some very, very huge matches where basically you take a look at the opponents that they've gone up against and everything. I mean, this is like a tournament schedule, Jeff, when you look at it so far.
It really is. They're definitely preparing for postseason play with their scheduling. It's as DBK has put it in several interviews, an aggressive schedule.
Yeah,
Usually with a little bit of a grimace because she's the one that set it up. So, but yeah, no, it definitely will prepare this team for the postseason because you got a bunch of teams on the schedule even before we get into conference and talk about that will certainly be NCAA tournament teams, including this weekend. You've got Creighton will definitely be probably mind boggled if they don't make the tournament. I think UNI has a shot at it as well. I mean, obviously they're a decent team. The only real kind of exception to that was last weekend when we went to that Northern Kentucky tournament. Northern Kentucky, Missouri. Missouri might get in. South Dakota might get in if at a stretch, but would probably need to win their conference to do it. So, but by and large, this non-conference schedule is brutal and is definitely good preparation for postseason play.
you heard some of the things that you've seen out of this volleyball squad so far.
A lot of talent. It's certainly a veteran crew at this point. You're going to see a lot of players, I think, graduate coming into the season. A lot of big time players, Elena Scott, Anna DeBeer, Charity Looper, are all gone. But there's almost enough to have two full starting rosters, top 25 rosters, rotations, in my opinion, with this team, with how good they are and how deep they are. Jeff's already mentioned before, Camden Strand has shown big time improvement and wonders on defense to the point that she's played that libero position a little bit against, I want to say, was it Northern Kentucky? Just getting her ready for next season as we all just go ahead and assume that she's going to take that position as Elena Scott graduates. But yeah, they're going to be a battle-tested team by the time December comes. You mentioned that aggressive schedule. Well, here's who Louisville plays or has played that's currently in the top 10. Pitt's on the schedule twice. They're number 1. Stanford's number 2. They're on the schedule twice. Penn State's ranked number 3. Just played them. Nebraska's ranked 5th. We play them next week. Wisconsin's ranked 8th. We just played them. Creighton's ranked 9th. We play them tomorrow. Kentucky's ranked 10th. We play them this week. Like, holy cow, that's a absolutely brutal schedule.
It really is.
And then you can look at adding Georgia Tech, Florida State, Tennessee, Miami. They're all ranked as well. It goes on and on and on.
Cards did get the sweep last time out Sunday when they faced Northern Kentucky. They will host the Cardinal Classic beginning today in, I guess, a couple of hours from now. As Louisville ranked number 4 currently right now in the nation.
As for UofL play, yes, in a couple of hours. The Cardinal Classic as an overall tournament actually started yesterday. We're playing this weekend, UNI and Creighton, but Rice is also in town as part of this overall event. We don't play them, but they do play. Rice will play Creighton and UNI this weekend here in Louisville. And the
Creighton
first
and Rice
match
playing right now.
Yeah, the first match of the day, which I think is Creighton and Rice, is going on. Started at 11 o'clock, same time we came on the air. So,
well, it just really confounds it, Jeff, that you and I have to play volleyball against college students.
Yeah.
I know you're pretty good, but I'm slow and I can't jump anymore.
No.
Maybe it should be you and Jared.
Yeah.
Not you and I.
Yeah.
I do believe Creighton swept Northern Iowa yesterday to start it, and I don't think those were too close of sets. I think I saw maybe one of them was 25-20, but I think for the most part it was Creighton cruised along for that one.
Yeah, so when you take a look at Creighton, I think they're a top 10 squad if I'm not mistaken, with number 8 or 9
I think
last
they're
I saw.
ninth.
Yep,
And
Blue
so
Jays are ninth.
they of course facing Rice, 11 a.m. this morning, and then of course the Cards get the second game, as Jeff mentioned, 1:30 tilt against UNI, and then Sunday, of course, the Cards will see as Rice and Northern Iowa. That sounds like a fascinating matchup to me. And then we will
Yeah,
end up.
that could be a pretty good matchup. You know, Rice and Northern Iowa. I don't think either of them is going to clobber the other, but it's also not going to be in contention for match of the week nationwide. But it won't be bad.
That one a 10 a.m. game. So may have to pass up on church kitties to go see that one if you want to watch that. And then the Cards will play Creighton to end the day, and that's a 1 p.m. start. So
Yeah, that one's on ESPN. Mainstream ESPN.
Yeah, that's right. That's got an ESPN show. In fact,
Yeah.
we had a mainstream for field hockey yesterday, which was kind of nice. On the ACC network, but still, anytime you can get Susan Bush on there along with Leah Secondo, that's a pretty good calling crew. Both definitely know the game of field hockey.
Yeah, you had the best crew possible out there for field hockey yesterday.
Pretty least thing, and both very nice people too. I might add, by the way, so very nice to talk with them off the record about some things as well. I know that certainly, if she could, I think that she would still be out there playing too. I mean, she never really kind of let it go. Suzanne really loves the game and studies it quite well, and I think she'll be very bit disappointed if none of her children follow in it. But okay, so the Cardinal Classic it is. I don't see the Cards having a whole lot of trouble in this thing, but after that, and then after you take a look at what goes on in the Cardinal Classic, how are things looking the rest of the ways we kind of slowly roll through the non-conference slate here and take a look at what Louisville's got. Obviously some matches that I think could potentially give them trouble down the road. When you take a look past that, is obviously they're going to have to go up against a very strong Kentucky team, and that's the 18th, and that's a Wednesday this year, which kind of we've been up there in past years for that one, gang. Well,
Yeah,
has it always been during the week?
it frequently is. It's not always, but it frequently is because they're so close. It just makes it a quick trip and can be just an evening trip for the team as well as for fans back and forth. So it's frequently a midweek rather than having to arrange more complicated travel, which would tend to push it to a weekend. So it is, shout out to Kentucky. They did a big renovation for Memorial Coliseum last year. It is now air conditioned. So we'll see how well that does. They do still apparently have really big fans in there. I don't know if they're brand name big ass fans as they have been in the past, but I suspect they are because that is a company that is based in Lexington. So
I believe they kept their contract with Big S fans.
Yeah. Okay. So cool stuff there. Shout them out. And then so it should be a heck of a match. Kentucky has some question marks about their team. They've played two different Libros this year, not in a two Libro set, but they were playing one. Eleanor Bevan, who's been the Libro for the past few years, but they've kind of shifted. They're using Tuozo, I think is her name. That was an incoming freshman. She played in the spring. That is their Libro this year. So a little bit of question mark going on there, and maybe not fully healthy yet as a team, but only very minor little tweaks stuff going on. So should be good.
Indeed, it should. And then, of course, after the Kentucky match, we get a nice little homestand for volleyball. Is that they'll bring in next Sunday is bringing in a very, very good Nebraska team to the KFC Yum
Absolutely.
Center.
Yeah.
That'll be good competition. And then a little later on in the week, next week, they'll face California, but they won't be playing this one in the Yum. They're going to be taking it back on campus to our little 1,000-seater arena there, but it's still considered a home game, obviously. Stanford comes in a couple days after that. I guess those two are traveling together as a kind of a duo, maybe right now.
Yeah, I suspect they're set up as traveling partners, so they'll probably. I think if we probably look at their schedules, they're probably on the opposite day is are playing probably Notre Dame.
As that one will be at the deck down at the KFC Yum Center. So kind of bouncing back and forth in the same weekend there for volleyball, which I don't know, Jeff, guys, what does that kind of do to a team? You get used to your home court, your home aura, and your home fans and everything. But us having kind of like the father and the stepfather, so to speak here, as far as things go, this does that interfere really with the team's continuity? And
I don't think so. We've had a few matches down at the KFC Yum Center now. I suspect they're fairly comfortable in that environment at this point. And then the LNN is, I mean, that's their practice floor, their practice facility, so they're in there every day. So I don't think there will be any discomfort playing in any of these positions and switching back and forth. Maybe a little bit of a hiccuping going on, but it's yeah, they're comfortable with both. They really kind of think of both as their home floors at this point, and probably even more so in the future. But I don't think they're gonna have too much trouble shifting back and forth.
after they take care of a Stanford match, then they have a couple more at home where these will be over at the L&N Federal Credit Union facility where they'll bring in Clemson
Mhm.
and they'll also bring in Georgia Tech, who in past years has given us their share of headaches with a very good squad down there that they traditionally are. And I think there's one killer bee left, Jeff.
One killer bee, Bertolino is still there. Georgia Tech's had a pretty good season so far, with a couple upset wins over some big teams. So again, they look to be pretty darn good again this year. So and I don't think Clemson will be too much competition, but the Yellow Jackets are definitely a team to watch out for. They're below us in the rankings, a fair number of spots down, but I suspect come tomorrow or come Monday they'll climb up a few more spots based on what they've done.
So we'll see how that turns out for them as the Cards will, of course, get this tournament schedule, as they're calling it a tournament. And I guess it is kind of a tournament. So uh, they're going to get that started, of course, today. Went up against a Northern Iowa squad. Rice also in town, as we mentioned. So maybe not the most powerhouse squads in women's volleyball, but certainly a nice little tournament that Louisville's kind of set themselves up for. Hopefully they can win and take care of. They're coming off a very nice last weekend where they took down South Dakota, Missouri, and NKU, all up at the NKU Invitational up there. And Jeff, just kind of your thoughts and impressions on the volleyball up there?
Yeah. So Missouri took a set off the Cardinals up there. It was the first set of that the Cardinals lost in this 14 4-year contract that they had done, where they played home, and home a schedule with all four teams, and every year they had swept all three matches in all 3 years previously, so only lost one set out of all that. So a little bit of frustration there, I think, early or in the third set of that Missouri match. Someone online commented that it was the first set they lost, and somebody else said, "Yeah, they took it personally because came out and just clobbered them in the fourth."
Yes, they
Uh,
did.
but yeah, overall, not particularly competitive. Overall, the match against, I said Missouri. I think it was actually South Dakota because it was the first
Yeah,
match. Yeah,
South Dakota.
sorry, I had the wrong team. Came out, handled Missouri fairly easily, and then came out again on Sunday against Northern Kentucky. It just was that was just not the same level of competition. Um, when they came out of the locker room, of course I was there, and they came out of the locker room, we had two Libro jerseys on. We had the Elena Scott as normal, and Camden Tran had a Libro jersey on. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But what it turns out is that this was essentially okay. We know we are going to beat this Northern Kentucky team without too much trouble. So we're going to have Camden Schran in a Libero jersey so she can effectively sub in for Elena Scott as a Libero mid set and not have to go through all the juggling of jerseys between sets of all that and all that. So it was not like a two Libero set like we saw out of Wisconsin and some other teams. It was just like, hey, okay, we're gonna give Camden the opportunity to play some time fully as a Libero, which is what they did.
which I expect we're going to see more later in the season. Probably more so once we get to November. I think you play the middle to lower tier part of the ACC schedule.
Yeah, we may see that some more.
Piggybacking off Jeff, I don't see we're going to see Camden Strand dress in that Libero jersey for, well, maybe today, but at least the next few matches, probably the next 4 or 5 in a row, probably not.
Yeah.
What name that I think a lot of volleyball fans knew of but weren't real familiar with until this season, though, was Charity Looper, who has
Yep.
really stepped in and played some excellent volleyball for the Cards so far this season, guys. Kind of the thoughts on her?
I mean, hopefully Louisville fans knew her fairly well last year with the kind of a pretty big role even last season. Maybe outside of the conference, people might not be too familiar with the name, but she's one of those players you can put front row, back row, wherever you need her, and she's going to step in and not do that role well, but do that role great. She's
Yep.
got incredible hops. I think her serve receive is higher than what you would expect for an outside hitter. She's fairly accurate for her serve receive. I mean, like any outside hitter, there's a couple hiccups here and there, but I think she does a great job.
Yeah. She is a little undersized as in general consideration for an outside hitter at 5'9". But I will never forget her going up at 5'9" and absolutely blocking the ever loving snot out of Anna Smrek from Wisconsin, who's 6'9", a full foot of height difference. And yeah, Looper, to say that she's got some hops is an understatement. She got up and over Anna Smrek and just dropped it right back down right on her. So it was delightful to see.
Charity, of course, got her career started at UCLA. Was out there as a Bruin for her first 2 seasons. Played out there and did some very good things out there. I think it was all Pac-12 honorable mention her sophomore year, if I remember correctly, and decided to come here to Louisville and moved in 2023 and
Had a big impact.
jumped right in and said, Claire, you graduated. We love you. Goodbye. I think I'll play now.
Yeah.
And ended up earning that first team All ACC.
Yep.
First year as a Cardinals. So all AVC, first regional or East regional team as well. And she adds quite a dimension to this squad, doesn't she, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's, as Jared mentioned, she's a great all-around player. She's good in serve, receive, and defense, which is helpful when you're playing at 6'2", because you don't have so many subs to work with. So you need your left side hitters to be good in all rotations and be able to handle that serve, receive, and defense, so that you don't have to pull in a bunch of DSs in place of them. So yeah, she's done wonderfully there. She's a very big contributor to this team already.
And so we'll look forward to how she ends up and keeps playing the rest of the season for the Cards. And certainly a team that, this is a possible Final Four team. Sure it is. They've got the talent there. They've got the power and the ability, just to see how they do later on in the season when the big games come down the pike. And the ACC, of course, has no conference tournament. So we won't be able to rely on that to kind of maybe help bolster our chances of getting into the NCAA. But I think just based on the way we've been playing so far and the way we'll continue to play, I think the Cards will make it okay. But as I promised the guys, I'd have them out of here by noon. So we're going to go ahead and roll right on in then to final thoughts, fellas. So bring your best shot to me, Jared. Final thoughts from you, sir.
Yeah, come out and next Sunday and celebrate my birthday by watching volleyball beat Nebraska. I think that's a great way to celebrate a big day. So, little promotion there, but certainly want to fill up the KFC Center against a team that historically travels well.
Yeah, they're going to have a cake for you and everything, right, Jared?
Maybe we'll get Jeff to talk the team into serenading me after the win or something.
You can have him run down the steps and do a J, A, R. Maybe they could do a chant for you there. Certainly wish them the best today. Final thoughts out of you, Jeff, sir?
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it at the top of the show briefly. Wanted to kind of dive into it real quickly. This is today in volleyball. This is kind of the Peterson family battle. Peyton Peterson is a freshman with us this year and has already shown that she's pretty competent as an outside hitter and full rotation player. Her mother, Bobby Peterson, is the head coach for Northern Iowa. So they will be competing against each other. Her twin, and I'm going to get this name wrong if I don't look, so let me look, is Jaden. Her twin Jaden, who also wears number 21, plays for UNI. And her father, Dwayne, was a football player at UNI. And her two older siblings, who were also twins, and they're Bailey and Sydney, also both played volleyball at UNI, although not at the same time. And then Aunt Michelle Bolt is the director of operations for UNI. So this is kind of Peyton versus the world. And I loved that University level social media for their game day picture used a picture of Peyton for their social media post for today. So quite appropriate, I think, and wish her well. Hopefully we'll get to see her and play a little bit, play against her family and see some family reunion there. So should be a lot of fun.
Certainly hope that you'll get in and be able to do some things as well. As for me, final thoughts, just maybe give a little shout out to UofL Women's Golf. Certainly a program that we followed maybe a little more closely back in the days of Lauren Hartledge, but I've got some commitments from Daryl who wants to cover the program and get into the program, and has decided that she wants to do some interviews with Whitney Wade Young down there, the head coach, and so we're going to get all that rolling for her when she's feeling a little bit better. She of course loves to play the game, and I think would be an excellent person to cover women's golf for us. They are in the Cardinal Cup this weekend, and they're playing that out at the UofL golf course. Very excited about the way they're playing out there. They were tied for third place after the first round. So,
yep.
uh,
and two players tied for third individually as well. So
yeah, Tiana Hun, who's on the team this year, and also Carmen Griffiths from last year is back again as well. And they are near the top of the leaderboard up there. As Jeff mentioned.
And this is like I think it's 15 teams playing. So
yeah, it's a big
third's pretty good.
Yeah. So let's hope that they can keep up the good work there. We want to thank all of you all for listening to the show today, and certainly get out to support UofL Women's Athletics where you can get a chance to go see them, and of course always make sure to get your daily dose of Cardinal Couple on the web. So until then, everybody have yourselves a great rest of the weekend, and go Cards.